One of the biggest things going on in our world right now is that we have finally, and this is literally years in the making, and really, I would say within the last year, Ryan has kind of perfected this process that we call the influence engine, which is like I said, it's been years in the making because I was able to like start doing the kind of the basics of what the influence engine is in our business for years because we had a somewhat decent sized company. I had a marketing team, we had budget, we had resources so that we could really kind of have a really robust marketing process that had a lot of firepower. We're generating hundreds of leads every single month. And with the rise of AI and advancements in technology and that stuff getting better and better, specifically over the last like 6 to 12 months, a lot of things have changed where we realized over the last year that like that kind of marketing firepower that used to be really hard for smaller businesses to even have a chance at doing now is really accessible for pretty much anybody and everybody. And that we had a really great opportunity here to put together a system and process to work with small businesses and show them how they can do it too. Utilizing not just, this is not about a new tool or a new software. It's about utilizing a principle for marketing that will allow you to generate the most leads and convert the most leads, but then using the new AI and tech tools to actually make it doable and efficient, which is really a big part of it. So it's knowing what to do and it's really knowing how to do it. And if we step back, this is really exciting to me because, like my entire career has been about solving the biggest marketing and sales challenges that face the small business community. And I mean, we've been, ever since I started working for myself, that's what I've been doing. We've pioneered a number of systems that have helped people grow substantially. We've had thousands of customers. And this is maybe one of the most exciting systems that we have ever introduced to the market because it addresses the biggest challenges and opportunities that every business faces in a way that I haven't seen anything done before. So let's talk a little bit about some of the information that we've released so far. A few days ago, we put out the Influence Engine Blueprint, which really sets the stage for why this is so important and a brief overview of what it is. If you haven't downloaded a copy of that, it's a PDF. Quick read, but lots of data in it. And what some of the data shows is that the biggest challenge that businesses face is getting more leads. 61% of businesses say that that's their biggest challenge. And I've seen some studies that say it's even higher, but 61% is pretty damn conservative. And another study that you'll see cited in the report said that companies that implement well-developed lead generation strategies experience 2 times more revenue than they had in the past, or those companies who aren't. And then this is really important. Companies that nurture leads properly generate 50% more sales-ready leads. So it really is clear that the key to growth is implementing a well-developed lead generation system and having the ability to properly nurture those leads over time. So let's talk about it, like what that really means and how to do that. Because it sounds like, okay, that sounds nice, but how do we get more leads? Well, there's actually a lot of tactical ways to do it. For example, you can prospect and connect with new leads on LinkedIn, which is actually something that's part of the influence engine process. But that's kind of the easy part, to be honest. I mean, like anybody can send connection requests. Right? We all get them all the time. So like prospecting and connecting with people on LinkedIn is obviously like no secret sauce there, right? What really sets the people apart who are getting great results from it, from everybody else, is their ability to be seen as a true thought leader and an expert, not a leg humper, right? Not one of the people who's just connecting and sending sales pitches. You have to be seen as a thought leader and an expert. And you have to take some time to nurture these leads properly, which is really, really hard for most people to do. But with the influence engine, it doesn't have to be anymore. But let's talk a little bit about what that means, actually. Some of the data that we shared with you in the report, 82% of decision makers say thought leadership builds trust, and 47% link it directly to purchasing decisions. So half of buyers and decision makers are saying they're making purchasing decisions based on thought leadership content. 55% of buyers reported that thought leadership had significantly improved their perception of the organization's competence and experience. So the data is really, really clear. Like, this is a huge component. Thought leadership, being seen as an expert, is really, really important. But the problem has been, in the past, it took a lot of work to do that, to create this kind of influence. And a lot of time, like, creating the content to do that, to have a marketing system that actually delivers on that, it really has been hard for a lot of people. But this is the problem that we're solving. And I mean, think about any of the people that you follow and that you look up to in the business world. They put out a lot of content, right? Most of the time they do. And so I think a lot of us look at that and think, wow, if I could do that, I would really be, like, things would really be able to change for me. And the other thing too is that, like, you don't actually have to put out a lot of content. You just have to be strategic and consistent. And with the influence engine, you're going to have the right kind of, like, roadmap and blueprint, along with this technology / AI solution that allows you to do it all without putting in too much time. And the reason that is really important is because you have to be consistent. 60% of buyers, let's go back to the report, 60% of buyers say consistent content marketing improves buyer engagement. So you got to be consistent. 46% of buyers consume 3 to 5 pieces of content before engaging with a salesperson. So this is why you have to be consistent. This is why you have to play the long game. If you do, you get a ton more leads and clients. The data is just overwhelmingly clear. And so to do this without breaking the bank, you need a really clear process for how to do it. And we call our process the influence engine system. And it utilizes a really specific type of content that we call quarterly flagship content. And you'll see that word used in the guide as well. And you're going to hear me talking about that a lot more over the next couple of weeks. Quarterly flagship content, because for most of my clients, they're not trying to be, a Gary Vaynerchuk or somebody like that who's putting out, content every day on all sorts of social media platforms. They're trying to figure out, how can I get the most bang for my buck while also being consistent and having this thought leadership positioning, but also, you don't need to be posting every day anyways, because it's really going to kind of annoy a lot of your prospects. For many of my clients, that's just too much. And so what we find with a lot of people is that a quarterly cadence with a flagship piece of content, that we'll talk more about what that is really all it takes to go from maybe generating a lead or two a month to 10 or 20 leads a month. And I'll talk more about metrics in a second, but you'll see in the guide that the influence engine actually is a 5-step process. The first is to identify the pain points that your target market has. Then, based on those, map out a quarterly flagship content theme, which means essentially a marketing plan of what you're going to be talking about throughout the next year, with a main focus for each quarter that's going to drive what your quarterly flagship content is. And then number 3, which is highlight that you see there, is all about agitating pain points. And so this is where you're going to start coming up with the specifics of what's going to be inside each piece of quarterly flagship content, using the pain points from number 1, and then looking at how can you really drill down on those to show how your solution is going to help solve those pain points for your target market. And so number 1 through 3 that you see on the guide there, those are really, that's kind of the planning stuff. And then number 4 comes into the actual creation of the content. And that is where most people in the past just threw their hands up because they couldn't do it. But with quarterly flagship content, we're going to show you how to actually get it done really, really cost effective using AI and technology. You still have to do a little bit of proofreading. But Ryan has come up with some strategies for creating content using AI that is long form content. So what we're talking about here, as you'll see in the guide, we're talking about things like white papers, free reports, etc. And these are pretty meaty pieces of content, right? These are like multi-page PDFs that has, in the past, that would have taken you forever to create. You would have had to get a graphic designer to put it together. Not anymore. And then each of these becomes a very, really authoritative piece of leadership, thought leadership, positioning, and content that you're going to use. And if you have something like that once a quarter that you can drip out to your prospects, it really becomes a complete game changer and is a extremely powerful mechanism for getting your prospects to convert from, let's call them suspects, people you're just connected to bona fide prospects, to bona fide sales leads and clients. And then number 5 in the process is really just figuring out how to get more leads and how to utilize your flagship content and the entire influence engine process via LinkedIn, via email, and via groups, which are the kind of the 3 prongs or mechanisms that you're going to use to push the content out and get it in front of more people, get more eyeballs in front that you can, drive towards sales leads, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is really what it is. And now, one thing I want to do, Ryan, Ryan, I know it'll probably take you a minute to pull it up, but could you grab the PDF that one of our clients recently from Elite Financial Solutions? I want to show everyone an example of like what you can do with this process, and that like the kind of content you can come up with just a few clicks of a button once you understand how to do it. And while he's doing that, I also want to say for anybody who has done one of my LinkedIn courses in the past, like recently we had a program called LinkedIn Accelerator, you should definitely be adding influence engine to what you're already doing and consider this like the next level advanced strategy. So if you're currently getting 10 appointments and 1 client a month with what I've shown you in the past and with my kind of base level LinkedIn marketing system, with influence engine, you can double that, because this is really taking things to the next level. And we'll show you exactly how to do this so that you can get anywhere from 1 to 4 new clients a month using this process. So let me step back for a second here. Ryan's got it up on the screen. This is what a piece of flagship content would look like. And this was a client of ours who's in the financial industry. And if you need help with investments or retirement, anything like that, highly recommend Brooks and Elite Financial Solutions. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you is so that you can really see like what this is. And you can see here, this is a really substantial piece of content. I don't know, what is this? 8 pages, Ryan? And
I think it's 11 or something. It's long.
Yeah. And so why is this so powerful? Well, for Brooks, he's a financial advisor, investment advisor, and he's always looking for timely things to send out to provide thought leadership content to all the thousands of prospects he's communicating with on LinkedIn, on his email list, and everything else, right? But in the past, like creating stuff like this and having something like this on a quarterly basis to send out to your prospects is a really heavy lift. But what we've done is really figured out a way to do this extremely efficient and fast. So that you can have stuff like this for your business. Of course, yours will be of different topics and such. But you can have stuff like this on a regular basis. And this is how you can really finally have just tremendous thought leadership positioning to get a lot more leads and sales in your business. So we're really excited about it. I'll let Tim and Ryan chime in a minute. But the step, if you're wanting to get an even deeper breakdown on how all this works, is to sign up for our meeting next week. I'm going to do an overview of the whole Influence Engine process. I'm going to break it down in more detail there. And I look forward to seeing you at that if you can make it. We have a Zoom meeting next Wednesday, the 18th at noon Central. So
this exact.
Yeah, this time. So during this time, we'll be having that call.
Yeah, that's it. So, Ryan, what would you add to that? You've been obviously instrumental in getting this process in place for our clients.
Yeah, there's a couple things. So there's a couple, the main thing that everyone's going to want to hear is how to use this to get clients. That's we talk about that in there, but there's a couple really important things to consider with it. Half the reason we came up with this process. Also, I talked to a lot of business owners that were very worried about not having enough to say. Brooks is a great example because it's not a super unique service, right? To be a financial advisor, there's a lot of them out there, and it's all about building relationships or who you trust. And there's a concept called the cycle of redundancy and saying the same things over and over again, and you start to get tuned out. So there's only so many times someone like Brooks or anyone that has a business like that. Let's just say you're an SEO agency, right? And you don't create your own content, but you do a great job with SEO or any search engine marketing. There's only so many times you can reach out to somebody and say hey, would you like us to do your SEO? Because they're gonna be like, no, you've asked me this 5 times now, but you don't want to give up on your prospects after the first time they say no or ignore you, because all of the data shows that that's a huge mistake, and you need to be reaching out to people more and more and more. So if you create something quarterly, and you can do it more often if you want, but it's this is a manageable, really effective way to do it, is if you create something large quarterly, it gives you a reason quarterly to reach out to people, breaking what, I didn't come up with the cycle of redundancy concept, but breaking that cycle and having something fresh to say and a reason for them to actually care about what you said, other than just trying to sell to them. And so that's one big thing. The other part with the AI element, most likely you've seen a ton of people sharing posts either on LinkedIn or wherever, or blog posts, or people talking about how to use AI for something like this. Most of the advice that is being given out, most of it's fine, but it's very, very surface level, I guess, and it doesn't really provide the best result. There's a whole lot more to go into it. It's not a whole lot more work, but you really need to. There's some nuance to it, and but again, most of the stuff you're seeing out there, it's not going to work. You're going to get something very generic, and you're going to get something that doesn't give you a great result. And I know that because when I started doing things with AI and the different AI tools like ChatGPT and the others, is I tried the stuff that they told me, and everything that was spit out felt like I was writing it was like a blog post written by a 22-year-old grad at a big company, and they're just trying to pump out articles, right? That doesn't actually give you any substance. That's where I started. And then I had to figure out I'm going to try to actually make this work. And so I played around with it a whole lot. So I'm not just typing in, write me a white paper about financial considerations in the around the election. There's a whole lot more to it, but it doesn't mean it's a whole lot more work. You just got to put in the right information for it to give you something that actually is worthwhile. And so those are the two things is, it gives you a reason to reach out to people, gives you a way to become a thought leader, an authority in an industry, but it also, it gives you a whole lot of tools to use to market, and it's not all that much work, especially when you know the right way of using AI for it. And we're going to be talking about that. We'll be talking about that on the meeting next week, but that's the thing I'd add. Those are two really important things to consider. And I think it's a really cool system, and it's a really reasonable system for a business owner to do. There's a lot of really cool. The stuff that Gary Vee does is great, but it's a lot of work. He has a whole team doing it, and you probably don't. So
it's been a huge part of our business for a long, long time. And, we've been using this kind of approach in our marketing for years. I mean, think of all the promotions we've done, Ryan, where we always start with a PDF guide, report, white paper, ebook type approach. It's
Yeah, it's ton.
It's
That
so
this is,
powerful.
and like we would do it at a bunch of different levels and layers to it. And again, like Josh mentioned, we had a team. So like and this, yeah, I don't want anyone to think that this is something new because the AI part is new. It used to be a lot more work, to do it. But even, I mean, we would have, whether it's done quarterly or, I mean, we'd have, even once a year, we'd have a big launch and we'd frame like a one big theme for the year. And out of that big theme and big concept and big idea, we would break it down into a bunch of different other smaller topics that we would send out. It really set the tone for the year and allowed us to be focused, which is really at the time was even more important than it is now because it was expensive to have all these writers and people doing all of this. Now, you're still going to do some work, but I mean, I know from my standpoint, we've had some great writers that we've worked with, so I don't want to complain if they're listening because they were great. But there are some times when you have, like, especially when you're bringing on new writers to do things, if you don't have time to write, and you give them a directive and tell them what you want to write about, and you give them some material, and then you get something back, and you're like, "What the hell is this?" Like, it gives you, the expert, a little bit more control over what it says without needing to block off days out of your, so much time out of your calendar for it. So. It's been a huge part of our business. And a lot of it was just because it was efficient, like let's come up with some big ideas. Coming up with new big ideas every, time we do something it doesn't work. Like this big idea works. It resonated with people. How do we take that and chunk it out into different content? That's really kind of what we're doing here. And the way we're illustrating that is through the prospect pain points, which is on that graphic. It's like you figure out what your prospects are struggling with, and that'll help give you a guide for what kind of content you should be doing. And then it'll help you kind of map it out, help you visualize what it should look like. And again, we'll be talking about a lot of that on the meeting next week. It'll be a pretty casual, cool thing that we're doing. I really like this strategy. It's something that I meet with some of my friends every week, just as like a really informal, if you could call it, mastermind. And I've been talking about using this strategy with them. It's just like we help each other out with any problems that we have. So it's not something that it's something that I genuinely believe in and something that I think people should be paying attention to.
Yeah, people who do this are going to get more leads and clients and be much more effective in their marketing.
It'd be shocking if they didn't.
Yeah. Tim, you were going to jump in a second ago.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and kind of go back to the very beginning, really what you said, Josh, and you kind of touched on it just now, Ryan, is I think so many people that do content, they often honestly brag about themselves way too much. So, Josh mentioned, and Ryan as well, about, really discussing the pain points. So in other words, the content is going to be relatable to them. It's going to be things the prospects are going to want to read about. You're not going to brag about yourself every day. We're going to teach you to give content that is going to be of interest to your prospects. So it's a really different twist because I see so many people on LinkedIn just talk about their business over and over and over. And we prefer, I'm going to say what, 80% maybe mix talking about yourself, and the rest of the time is about these pain points for customers. So I think that's a really different way to think. And so come join us next Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited about it. And I also want to say, I was just pulling up some stats. We have 84 people already registered to be with us next Wednesday. So appreciate all you guys signing up early. And those are all people who have read the guide already and clicked the link in the guide to sign up for the meeting. So go sign up for the meeting, guys. We'll see you there next Wednesday. I also want to just say we've had over 1,000 people now who have downloaded the guide, which is really, really exciting. So just, it feels good to be getting these ideas into the hands of a lot of people that it can really help. So I hope it'll help you too. And we'll see you at the meeting on Wednesday, the 18th. And I look forward to it. Moving right along with the show today. I missed, what was that little breaking news banner that I just saw on the bottom?
Let me put it back up. Breaking news, 84 people just outed as geniuses.
Yes.
So if that's you, then you're in the breaking news right now. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Love
nice. Yes. I totally agree with that.
That's my one salesy part of this.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.